This documentary is about the history of editing and how it is used to keep realism in film. Here we go over the beginnings of editing and techniques.
To present this, we are using the film of Jurassic Park, along with the real Jurassic Park documentary and finally the trailer for the film. Part 1. The development of the moving image industry.
The birth of the film industry began in the early 1900s in America. However, the first public screening was on the 28th of December 1895 in the basement of the Grand Café in Paris by the Lumière brothers. The film was of their workers leaving their factory.
A French illusionist and filmmaker named Méliès tried to buy Lumière's camera but ended up building his own. Méliès was in Paris shooting a bus coming out of a tunnel when his camera jammed in the middle of the tape. When he got the camera working again, the bus was gone and replaced by a hearse.
When Méliès developed the film, he discovered that the bus turned into the hearse on screen. This brought around the use of the jump cut. Méliès put this discovery to work using jump cuts to create disappearing and reappearing effects. He also created editing devices like fade in and out, overlapping dissolves, and stop-motion photography. In the many films he created, Méliès never moved the camera and shot everything from a single angle, as shown in his film Trip to the Moon, where the set and background were on trolleys so they could be pulled towards the camera.
Edwin S. Porter was one of Thomas Edison's employees, and he discovered that cutting separate shots together would tell a story. Porter started off as a vitascope projectionist, setting up in the first Edison projection in 1896. Editing and cutting did not exist before Porter's discovery. He was greatly influenced by the work of Méliès, and he created a short film called Life of American Fireman, where he took stock footage from the large Edison library and spliced them together with the stage scenes to create a fictional narrative. It shows the job of a fireman saving a woman from a fire by piecing together different shots from the fireman's point of view and the woman who was in danger.
One of the milestones in film history was the first narrative film, The Great Train Robbery, in 1903. Directed and photographed by Edwin S. Porter, it was a primitive one-reel action picture about 10 minutes long with 14 scenes.
The film used a number of original techniques, many of them for the first time, including parallel editing, minor camera movement, location shooting, and less stage-bound camera placement. Jump cuts or cross cuts were a new practical editing technique, showing two separate lines of action or events happening at identical times but in different places.
D.W. Griffith is known for working on the continuity of editing. He tried writing scenarios for movie companies after failing in many other careers. Working under the stage name of Lawrence Griffith, he submitted an adapted play to none other than Porter. Porter then rejected it for having too many scenes.
One of Griffith's first attempts was the cutting first used in The Greaser's Gauntlet. In 1908, he cut from a medium-long shot of a hanging tree to a full shot in the middle of the scene. This was to emphasize the emotional impact of an exchange between two actors.
Griffith continued to experiment with alternating shot lengths, using multiple camera setups to create a scene through what is called continuity editing. Continuity editing is cutting between shots with the purpose of maintaining smooth sense of continuous time and space. The use of space creates a logical and believable space between characters and events. This also creates reality within film. Time is important in editing because you need to speed up, slow down, compress and stretch time, use flashbacks and flash forwards to control the time within the narrative.
Griffith later created The Lonely Villa in 1909, intercutting between three parallel actions. These were a woman being held in a house, robbers trying to break in, and a husband rushing to the rescue.
With multi-camera setup being used, the 180-degree rule evolved out of practice to avoid continuity problems. This is when a camera cannot be placed 180 degrees around the scene, otherwise it will not cut together well and ruin the illusion. Intercutting or cross-cutting, cutting shots in different scenes in a parallel action. Porter discovered that jump cuts can be used in films to make disappearances, but also that it is a problem in films due to keeping the continuity. This was first put to use after many years based on a poem written in 1908. It shows a shipwrecked man and the woman he left behind and was hailed as a masterpiece.
Through practical problem solving and experimentation, he He and contemporary filmmakers came up with concepts like the establishing shot, reverse shots, and matching eye lines.
In 1914, Griffith released an independent film which became cinema's most expensive movie ever made, and also the world's first blockbuster, Birth of a Nation, in 1915. It was a collection of all Griffith's editing and cinematic techniques.
The Moscow Film School was founded in 1919 and would become the first film school in the world. The school's primary function was to train people to make films to support the Bolshevik political party. This was a form of propaganda. One of the school's co-founders, Lev Kuleshov, would bring new insight into the psychological workings of the motion picture.
Kuleshov created his own study group outside of the formal structure of the school. It attracted more radical and innovative students. They dissected D.W. Griffith's editing structure, even deconstructing the shots and reassembling them in hundreds of ways to examine the impact the different edits had.
Kuleshov was the first to put Griffith's practice of emotion and expressions into theory. The meaning of the film was not only about how things were arranged in the frame, but in the film strip itself, the sequence of the shot. This was to make the film transcend space and time, so that the viewer would construct the geography as they were watching a film. The film is born in the edit, which the Soviets called montage, from the French verb mont, which means to assemble.
There are 5 methods of montage. One is metric, which is cutting to the beat. Another is rhythmic, which is concerning rhythm of action in the shot. Tonal montage is concerning the tone of the shot, and overtonal is concerning the montage of the large sequence. Intellectual or ideal montage is concerning ideas. Sergei Eisenstein worked with the development of montage through theory and breaking free of continuous of time and space, and to communicate abstract ideas in a new and modern way. Battleship Potemkin would be Eisenstein's most critical, acclaimed and influential film.
Shot in 1925 as part of the 20th anniversary of the 1905 revolution against the Tsar, Potemkin took 10 weeks to shoot, with the famous Odessa step sequence shot in 7 days. The editing took another 2 weeks to accomplish. Each shot has 24 frames, but we don't see the cut between each of the 24 frames. This is because persistence of vision refers to the optical illusion whereby multiple discrete images blend into a single image in the human mind, and believed to be the explanation for motion perception in cinema and animated film.
The montage theory would be refined and pushed even further in the 1950s as the French New Wave, as well as Hollywood's visionaries like Alfred Hitchcock, began to incorporate montage as part of their storytelling technique. An alternate editing style is slow motion, which makes characters move fast, whereas fast motion makes them move slow. This causes a psychological effect. Transitions are used in editing to create style in film. Some of these are dissolve, fade and white, although these are rarely used in films, keep it a continuous flowing.
Non-linear editing means that footage can come from any number of sources and be assembled in any order using edit systems such as digital editing software and computer editing. The first truly non-linear editor, the CMX 600, was introduced in 1971. It recorded and played back in black and white analog video, recorded in skip field mode on modified disc pack drives the size of washing machines. These were commonly used to store about half an hour data digitally on mainframe computers of the time.
Linear editing, or pre-digital editing, in a film would have celluloid print of 16mm, 35mm, cutting and slicing. The TV video editing used videotape editing and multi-camera editing. When shooting the same event/scene with more than one camera and try to edit the multiple camera footage together, you are multi-camera editing. Soap operas, reality TV shows, concerts, and weddings often use multi-camera editing. Linear video editing is a video editing post-production process of selecting, arranging, and modifying images and sound to a predetermined ordered sequence. The content is assessed sequentially. Most video editing software has replaced linear editing.
With both the continuity style of D.W. Griffith, with the emphasis on clear understandable space and time, and the Soviet montage style, which ignored space and time to create impact through the juxtaposition of different images, the rudiments of cinematic language emerged in roughly the first 30 years of cinema's existence, quickly becoming an intricate art form through experimentation and theory. These first practitioners who studied and built on each other's work would in turn be studied and imitated by the next generation of filmmakers. Part 2, the key features of moving image production.
Jurassic Park is a well-known science fiction film by Steven Spielberg, produced in 1992. It is set in the 90s and is primarily set in the Costa Rica and Isla Nivola, a small island off the coast of Costa Rica. Several scenes take place in various locations across the US. The narrative structure is the classic Todorov theory: equilibrium, disequilibrium, and neo-equilibrium. This means that it begins with an introduction and setup, then the complications happen, which leads to the climax and finally to the resolution. At the end, the characters are never the same as they used to be, and everything has changed.
An interesting concept is that creatures can be given enhanced mental and cognitive abilities. They can be equal to or greater than humanity. This competition is an attractive quality for a movie. It is most likely targeted at those with interest in creatures, monsters, or gene manipulation, etc. This is often associated with the younger age group, but can be aimed at adults and teens as well.
The audience was always aware that what they were watching was carefully crafted special effects. The goal of the special effects artists is to help the audience forget what they are watching, that they are watching a film, to convince them that dinosaurs do exist.
The Brachiosaurus is the first dinosaur seen by the park's visitors. It is inaccurately depicted as chewing its food and standing up on its hind legs to browse among the high tree branches. The chewing was done to make the animal seem docile. In a way, it resembled a cow chewing its cud. Despite scientific evidence of them having limited vocal capabilities, they were represented with whale songs and donkey calls to give them a melodic sound of wonder.
When the T-Rex comes through the glass roof of the Ford Explorer in the final attack, the glass was never meant to break. Due to this, some of the screams you heard in the final cut are screams of general fear. The T-Rex occasionally malfunctioned due to the rain, so they had to dry it off after every scene.
The animatronic T-Rex stood 20 feet, weighed 7,500 pounds, and was 40 feet long. Steve Williams decided to throw physics out the window and create a T-Rex that moved at 60 miles per hour, even though its hollow bones would have busted if it ran that fast. The major reason for this was the T-Rex chasing the Jeep, a scene that took 2 months to finish. The T-Rex breaking through the log alone is 75 frames long.
The T-Rex roar is a baby elephant mixed with a tiger and an alligator, and its breath is a whale's blow. A dog attacking a rope toy was used for the sounds of the T-Rex tearing another dinosaur apart. Cut redwood crushing it to the ground became the sound of the dinosaur's footsteps.
Dolphin screams, walruses bellowing, geese hissing, an African crane's mating call, tortoises mating, and human rafts were mixed to formulate various raptor sounds.
Several of the storm scenes of the movie are actual footage shot during the Hurricane Enrique, which passed directly over where they were filming.
The scene with the water ripple effect was created by playing a specific guitar note that made the water move.
In the film, John Hammond and Ian Malcolm represent diametrically opposite ideals. Ian believes in chaos and the power of nature. John represents hubris and a desire to control nature. Thus, they are dressed in opposite colours.
On the helicopter ride, Dr. Grant can't get his seatbelt to work. Notice the 2 female ends of the belt. Dr. Grant eventually just ties the 2 ends together. This foreshadows the dinosaur's impending mutation and reproduction outside of the lab. In other words, he finds a way, just like all the female dinosaur population.
The Real Jurassic Park is a documentary that takes the story of Jurassic Park and applies it to real scientific study. Narrated by Jeff Goldblum, who plays Dr. Ian Malcolm in Jurassic Park, the documentary is set out in stages or steps and asks the audience a rhetorical question. Could it happen? Using this technique to get the audience minds going with questions that they need answering. And the documentary has the answers they need. The first 2 minutes of the documentary talks about the scientific theories used in the film and the success of the film. The used behind-the-scenes footage shows Steven Spielberg talking about the film and of him working with the crew, creating the idea that he works closely with the people who helped create the film. The documentary has several interviews with professionals on the subject of creating creating dinosaurs, and how science fiction is slowly turning into true science with new discoveries every day.
Throughout the documentary, behind-the-scene footage from the filming of Jurassic Park helps to link with the idea of creating real dinosaurs. With the documentary aiming to show the process of creating dinosaurs, the footage is there to show the process of creating the film.
One of the iconic symbols of the film is the mosquito in amber, and the documentary brings that iconic scene to life with the factual telling of the scientific study of gaining DNA from a creature encased in amber.
The documentary uses the theme tune of Jurassic Park and non-diegetic sound over the video, as well as clear sound levels when a person is talking.
Setting the documentary out in a step-by-step guide with the editing and using clips from the film creates a similar feeling to the scene when we first meet Mr. DNA and his talk about creating dinosaurs. The documentary creates the idea that this is a longer version of that scene and a step-by-step guide that Mr. DNA gives the audience when they first sit down to watch the film.
The trailer of Jurassic Park has a narrative structure and speaks directly to the audience, engaging them with the idea of the film whilst prompting it.
The trailer shows a close-up of a shot of dinosaur bone, which makes it appear as dramatic to the audience without revealing too much detail of the film. This is to grab their attention and make them want to go and watch the film.
They use a lot of panning shots of the labs and science equipment to represent the genre of the film, which is science fiction. The panning shots create an effect of a brief view of these shots, which draws the audience in and want to know more.
There are also close-ups of important characters to show the audience who the actors are and to introduce them to the characters.
At the beginning of the trailer, there is a close-up of the fossilized amber. This is an interesting focus for scientific viewers.
The trailer is edited together to jump from scenes that don't fit together. This is to make it easier to watch while keeping its flow.
The dinosaurs are cut out and only partially seen, keeping the appearance of the dinosaurs a mystery. This intrigues the audience and draws them in so that they can find out what happens and watch the film.